Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on something uh, really crucial, but honestly often overlooked if you're thinking about real estate investing.
Which is?
Setting your financial goals. Seems basic maybe?
Yeah, you'd think so.
But our source material today, it's a sharp blog post from Facioli Publishing, part of their How to REI 101 series, argues pretty convincingly that this is like the missing first step for a lot of would-be investors.
That's absolutely spot on. It's so easy to get excited about finding deals, looking at houses online.
Oh yeah, the fun part.
Right, the thrill of it. But if you haven't actually defined your financial targets first, well, all that running around might not get you where you actually want to go.
Like running without knowing the finish line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission, really, in this deep dive is to pull out the key steps from this blog post, give you a kind of practical roadmap so you can build a portfolio with, well, actual intention, purpose.
Okay, let's jump right into the core of it then. Step one seems to be figuring out how many properties you should even aim for. And the blog post says, don't start browsing Zillow first. Start with the end goal. What kind of end goals are we talking about?
Well, the source points to a few big ones. Things like achieving real financial independence, where your investments cover your life costs.
The dream, right?
Totally. Or maybe supplementing your retirement income, adding a cushion, or even building generational wealth, something to pass on.
Okay.
And each of those goals kind of points you towards a different number of properties, maybe a different timeline too. Real estate's pretty unique here because it can give you that ongoing income and long-term growth. Not all investments do both quite like that.
Right. So once you have that bigger picture, maybe it's financial independence, how do you actually translate that into a number? Like how many doors?
Yeah.
The Post had a pretty direct calculation for that based on cash flow.
It did, yeah. And it's refreshingly simple, actually. They used an example like, say your goal is $10,000 a month in passive income. And you figure maybe realistically, each property you buy could net you $500 a month after all the bills are paid. Mortgage, taxes, management, everything.
So simple math.
Simple math. You'd need, what, 20 properties to hit that $10K target? It just gives you a concrete number to shoot for and makes the goal feel, well, real.
But they also brought up, and this is important, it's not just about the cash flow month to month. There's the whole appreciation side, the equity building up. How does that fit in?
Yeah, that's where the long-term power really kicks in. The blog post highlights this well. As your properties hopefully go up in value over time, and as you pay down those mortgages, your net worth grows. And this is key, that growing equity, that appreciation, it might mean you don't actually need, say, all 20 of those properties spitting out cash flow right away to reach your ultimate financial number.
Ah, okay. So the appreciation helps carry some of the weight later on.
Exactly. It acts like a bit of a multiplier over the long haul.
And to stop that big number, like 20 properties, from feeling, totally overwhelming, the Post talks about setting milestones, breaking it down.
Yeah, this makes it way more practical. The source suggests, like, okay, what's your goal for property ownership in 5 years? Then 10 years. Then maybe 20 years.
Right. Little steps.
Little steps. It turns this huge, maybe distant goal into a series of achievable targets. You can track your progress, adjust if you need to. It just creates a much more manageable and, frankly, motivating timeline.
Okay, so we've got a way to think about the number of properties.
Yes.
Step 2 in the Post dives deeper into defining the actual financial targets. So cash flow goals and net worth goals. What are the key things to think about here?
Right. So the source breaks down the two main ways real estate makes you money. There's cash flow, that's the money left over each month after you pay all the bills, right? Mortgage, property manager, repairs, vacancies, all that.
The income part.
The income part. And then there's net worth growth, which is mostly about your equity building up as you pay down the loan and the property itself appreciating in value.
Got it. So for cash flow goals, what questions should you be asking yourself?
The blog post really pushes you to think, okay, how much passive income do you actually need each month? Is it just to supplement your job, or are you aiming to replace your salary entirely, that financial independence thing again?
And risk comes into play here too, right?
Big time. It asks about your risk tolerance. Are you okay with maybe riskier strategies that could potentially generate higher cash flow? Or do you prefer something safer, steadier, even if the returns are a bit lower? That's a very personal thing.
And then for net worth goals, that feels more like the long game, the big picture wealth target.
Precisely. You need to sort of picture, okay, what net worth number do I want to hit by retirement? Or maybe by another key date. And the Post also makes you consider your priority. Is it maximizing cash flow now, or are you more focused on building that long-term equity, even if it means less cash in your pocket month to month? Your answer really shapes the kinds of deals you'll look for.
The blog post also mentioned a benchmark number for returns, that 6-12% cash-on-cash return. What's the point of that guideline?
Yeah, that's a useful kind of reality check. Cash on cash return, just quickly, is your annual cash flow divided by the actual cash you put into the deal.
Okay.
So that 6-12% range gives you a ballpark figure. It helps you estimate how much capital you might need to invest to reach your income goals. A property hitting 12% might be a great find, maybe efficiently managed, good area.
Whereas 6% might be safer or need more work.
Could be, yeah. Or maybe just a different type of market. It just gives you a realistic lens to look through when you're analyzing potential deals. Avoids chasing unrealistic numbers.
Okay, makes sense. So you've got your numbers figured out, how many properties, your cash flow target, your net worth goal. The next logical step, according to the blog post, is choosing the right kind of property. Single-family, multifamily, commercial. So with single-family homes, why are they often seen as a good starting point?
Well, the source suggests they're often ideal for beginners, maybe folks with less cash up front or people who just want something simpler to manage.
Right.
The plus sides are usually, a lower purchase prices compared to bigger buildings, so it's easier to get in the game. Management can be more straightforward. And there's usually pretty strong demand from renters wanting a house.
But there are downsides, too. The post mentioned limited cash flow potential and vacancy risk.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. With one house, if your tenant leaves, boom, you're 100% vacant on that property.
Ouch. Zero income.
Zero income from that one, exactly. And generally, the amount of cash flow you can squeeze out of one single-family home tends to be less than what you might get from, say, a duplex or a small apartment building.
Okay, so let's talk about those multifamily properties then. Duplexes, triplexes, small apartment buildings. What's the big appeal there?
Multifamily, according to the post, is really geared towards investors who want higher overall cash flow and want to scale up maybe a bit faster.
Makes sense. More units.
Exactly. Multiple income streams from one property, that's the main advantage. It just boosts the cash flow potential. Plus, you often get economies of scale. Managing one building with 10 units can be more efficient than managing 10 separate houses scattered around town.
And the vacancy risk we just talked about is spread out too, right? That feels safer.
Definitely safer in that regard. If one unit out of 10 is empty, that's just a 10% vacancy hit. Much less painful than 100% vacancy on your single house. That diversification within the one asset is a big plus.
So potentially more income, more stability, but maybe more headaches, more complex.
That's a fair assessment, yeah. The blog post does point out multifamily usually means higher purchase prices. Financing can be a bit more involved. And yeah, day-to-day management is often more intensive, more tenants, potentially more issues to handle.
Gotcha. Okay, lastly, commercial properties. Office buildings, retail spaces, that sort of thing. The post kind of positions these for more experienced investors.
Generally, yes. Commercial often has some appealing features, like longer lease terms. You might get tenants signing on for 5-10 years.
Oh, wow. That's stable.
Very stable income stream, potentially. The cash flow and appreciation can also be higher in commercial. And a big one is triple net leases. Sometimes the tenant pays for property taxes, insurance, even maintenance. That reduces your direct costs.
But the barriers to entry sound higher. The blog post implied that.
They definitely can be. The source emphasizes you typically need quite a bit more capital to buy commercial property. And you really need to understand the market, the leases. It's just more complex.
And riskier, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. Especially during economic downturns. Businesses can struggle, might default on leases. So higher potential reward, but often higher risk, too.
The post wrapped up that section with some good self-reflection questions for picking your focus.
Yeah.
What stood out to you there?
They really force you to match the property type to your own personality and goals. Like, do you want fewer high-value properties, or are you okay managing lots of smaller ones? How comfortable are you with higher risk for potentially higher returns? What kind of tenants do you actually want to deal with? Families, businesses? Answering those honestly really helps narrow down your focus.
Okay, so you've done the groundwork, defined the goals, thought hard about property types. The final step the blog post talks about is creating the actual roadmap. What goes into that?
The key thing, according to the source, is writing it down. A documented plan.
Not just in your head.
Not just in your head. It should spell out, the number and type of properties you're aiming for, your specific cash flow and net worth targets, and that timeline with milestones we talked about earlier.
And the advice was to start small. Why is that important?
Starting small, like with that first single-family home or maybe a duplex, lets you learn the ropes without betting the farm, basically.
Get your feet wet.
Exactly. You get that crucial hands-on experience. You figure out management. You start building some equity. And that equity from that first property can then become the down payment or the leverage for the next, maybe slightly bigger deal. It's about building momentum and knowledge.
And this roadmap, it's not something you write once and forget about, right?
Right.
The post-stressed reviewing and adjusting it.
Absolutely essential. Markets change, right? Your own life circumstances change. Maybe your goals even shift a bit over time.
Sure.
So looking at your plan regularly, maybe once a year, maybe more often, and tweaking it as needed that ensures it stays relevant and actually guides you effectively toward where you want to go. Gotta be flexible.
So really, to wrap this all up, this deep dive into the Fazioli publishing piece hammered home that setting those clear financial goals isn't just like a nice-to-have first step. It's the absolute foundation for your whole real estate investing strategy.
Couldn't agree more. You need that clarity. How many properties? What are the dollar targets for income and wealth? Which property types are your best bet to get there?
Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering around the real estate world.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Wandering without a compass. This goal-setting process, it gives you that direction. It gives your actions purpose.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
Take a moment, maybe after this, and really think about what financial freedom actually looks like for you. What's that magic monthly passive income number that would genuinely change your life? Because as we've discussed, just defining that number, even if buying a property feels miles away right now, that is the real starting point for your journey, whenever you decide to begin it.